the screen. There we are. Okay. For the sukkah. Okay, so next week, no class, even though I'll be learning in the sukkah, but we're not having officially class. And Shikoch to Zahava and to Aryeh for showing up, and Yael when she comes, and to my mother, of course, who'll be watching eventually, and everybody else who watches afterwards. So we're going to do one pretty short lesson this week, and then a story, and then we're on break until after. So next week no class, and the week after we'll start again. And the truth is, I wanted to take off all of Tishrei. I said to Noga, maybe I'll take a break. She's like, no, people will stop getting used to coming. You won't get it started again. You got to keep going. So I have a general policy. I always listen to my wife. It's not easy to do always. But I told you the story of Eliyahu Navi, where he comes and gives the wealthy guy, and he gives this other guy a piece of parchment, and becomes a Torah scholar, and becomes wealthy, and then he takes it away from them and gives it to the guy who listens to his wife. So based on that, I listen to my wife. Okay, so this is Kuftet Yud, and this is Kuftet Vav, Keto. And we've learned this lesson before. This is 115. And the only reason I'm going here is because we did 112, and 113 is very short and an interesting lesson, but not really so relevant to our lives, unless you're a tzaddik that's bringing down shefa all the time. And then we have this lesson here. So you'll probably be familiar with it, and it's always a good lesson to review. The keto diet, exactly, keto diet. How many lessons have we learned? Literally hundreds of lessons, and how much of it do we remember? There's so many times that I think of something like, wait, we learned that once, and what does it say? And we went into all these lessons in detail, so it's good to go over them again. Rabbeinu Zal B'derech B'pasuk Hane'amar B'Kabbalat Torah. Rebbe Nachman opens with the verse from the receiving of the Torah. Sefer Shmot. ויעמוד המרחוק כמשה ניגש אל הערפל אשר שם האלוקים. The nation stood at a distance, and Moshe went into the mist, or the fog, where Hashem was. ועתה יבאר הרמז בפסוק. And now he's going to explain the hint in this verse. So normally we would read the verse and we just see the description. The nation standing at the base of the mountain. Moshe is going up in disappearing into the fog, and nobody knows what's going on. יתרץ את הקושייה. מדוע השם יתברך מתגלה במתן תורה ממקום חושך, ענן וערפל. He's going to explain the question, why does Hashem reveal himself in the giving of the Torah in a place of darkness, cloudiness, and fog? ולא במקום ספיר ואור וכולי, and not in a shiny, bright place. You would think that the Torah would be given, the sun would be shining, but here there's a big fog surrounding the mountain. Ki mi she'olech legashmiyut, because a person that is going in a material way. Now here he says, this is Rebbe Nachman, Shu adam megusham umitachlech ba'averot. That it's a very materialistic person that's covered, that's been filthy with transgressions. But the example that I always give is, I just make up this name, Sanford, F. Cohen, who has a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, and for 50-something years, he's been getting together with his friends to smoke cigars on Shabbos. He's very wealthy, and he knows he's a Jew, but that's it. And then one day, it's like a light goes off, and he says, I want to do tshuva. So that's the example I always think of when I start this. This is somebody who's involved in Gashmiyut, Kol Yamav, all the days of his life. Afterwards, gets an inspiration and wants to go in the path of serving Hashem, לשוב בתשובה, to do tshuva. אזי מידת הדין מקטרג עליו, ואינו מניח אותו ללך בדרכי השם יתברך. So Hashem has this attribute of justice, which is called midat hadin. And just like we have emotions, like there was this incident yesterday on Yom Kippur. There were people that were davening in a public space when the city and the Supreme Court said it was forbidden to put up a separate mechitza, and they put one up anyhow, and out came a bunch of protesters, and everybody, I think, felt midat hadin, their own personal, like what's right, and I'm going to act on it. The people that came to this public space to daven and put up a mechitza, and the people that came to protest against them. Who was right and who was wrong? I personally think that the people that were davening did the right thing, the people that were protesting did not. But that's really not the point. The point is this feeling of midat hadin. Like there's a strong feeling in me that this is the thing I have to do. So he says, what do you do with Sanford here, who's been a transgressor his whole life? Now he wants to be like a Torah kosher Jew. So Hashem says, well, there's a midat hadin, there's an attribute of justice, and this attribute of justice is going to come, mazmin lo meniah, and puts an obstacle in the way, la'afriya lo mila'asot tshuva, to prevent Sanford or us to do tshuva. Now you would think that a person wants to do tshuva, so Hashem is like, it's like you have a wayward child, and the child wants to come back and now live the lifestyle of the home in a positive way. Not like it was a home with drugs and smoking and all the kids, all of a sudden your nerdy kid wants to start smoking and taking drugs. The opposite. So the parents would be like, yeah, come, we'll do everything to help you. And here Hashem being our parent, and we want to do tshuva, you would think Hashem would say, yeah, I'll do everything to help you. But Hashem is compassionate. And hides himself within this obstacle. So now you see Hashem has this dilemma. It's not fair that a person, let's take a person that since they were very young was really working on themselves and learning and growing and Torah and mitzvot, and they're slowly on a path of growth. And then you take this guy who, at whatever age, 85, he says, now I want to do tshuva. And Hashem says, sure, here's the red carpet for you. So basically, the attribute of justice, which is an attribute of Hashem, which is the attribute of truth, is saying that's not fair. Not fair that this guy, things get to go easy for him. So Hashem's going to put an obstacle in the way. But Hashem loves us, and Hashem does want us to succeed. So what does Hashem do? He hides himself within the obstacle. Now you understand that this is a lesson for everything, all of the obstacles that we face. That whenever we face an obstacle, we might say, Hashem. Like last night, I was building the sukkah, and the beams that I marked on them, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here, they didn't fit. And I got really upset at myself, like, what kind of stupid thing did I write? How could I possibly do that? So it turns out that one of the beams, we really have to cut it after we take down the sukkah. It just really scrapes up against the wall. You had to really get it on the right angle. But here I am, exhausted after the fast. I was telling Arya before, it's pretty rare. I don't think I ever built the sukkah after the fast. I had this burst of energy. And I'm saying, Hashem, why are you putting an obstacle in the way? I just want to build the sukkah. Isn't it a nice thing to do that after the fast, when it's whatever, that's the time you're supposed to build the sukkah, I'm building the sukkah, and you're not going to let me get this beam in place? And there's an obstacle. Hashem is hiding within the obstacle. Now you can say, well, where is Hashem hiding within the obstacle of that beam? Like, isn't it just annoying? But it was really a time for me to work on my patience. Not to get upset at my son, for sure. Like, it's easy to blame other people. Oh, you gave me the wrong piece, or whatever it is. Not to get angry at Hashem, not to get angry at myself, because we know that a person who gets angry believes it's considered that it's this idol worship, right? But getting angry is not really idol worship. Getting angry means that you think that what happened to you came from somebody other than Hashem. And if Hashem were to kind of open up a little hole in the obstacle and say, hey, I'm right here, hoping that you won't get angry, you probably wouldn't get angry. And so that's Hashem hiding within the obstacle. So Hashem is compassionate, hides himself. And within the obstacles, a person can find Hashem. Hashem is hidden within all of the obstacles in our lives. Umishu bar da'at, and somebody who has da'at, we've spoken many times about chokhmah bina da'at, just to put it in the simplest way, chokhmah, facts, bina is taking one fact and another fact and reaching the third conclusion, and da'at is knowledge that Hashem is running the world. The person that knows this lesson, that has da'at, will look at the obstacles in their life and they'll find Hashem within the obstacles. That is, the obstacle itself instructs a person in how to find Hashem. Kamo de'ita shemubah beYerushalmi, as it's brought in the Talmud Yerushalmi and Ta'anit, im yomar lecha adam, if a person says to you, Ichan Elokecha, where is your God? Now, this isn't a question that really people ask these days. I guess they would ask it in a different way, but back in ancient times, everyone had some type of God. So, some people would believe in idols, or they would believe in the Christian idol, or whatever it was, and so they said to the Jews, where is your God? And also they meant it like, you Jews are so weak, if you think you're the chosen people, how come the Romans can conquer you, and how come everybody can conquer you, and how come you don't have any rights? It's kind of ironic that that's what the world used to say to us for thousands of years, and now that we do have rights, and we do have a country, they say, oh, why are you treating everyone else like they treated you? Why are you treating the Palestinians like the Nazis treated you? It's like the most gaslighting, whatever the verb for gaslighting is, the most gaslighting thing that you could do to a Jew is say, how do you Israelis treat the Palestinians? Like, why are you treating them like the Nazis treated you? But, there were signs in Germany before the World War II that said Jews to Palestine. And then, of course, after World War II, Jews to Germany. So, can never win. Okay, somebody says, where is your God? Say to that person, Bichrach Gadol Ba'aram, Beromi, in Rome. Now, what does that mean? That means in Kikar Tzion, in Dizengoff, in Manhattan, in Times Square. Where is Hashem? In Times Square. Shene'amar Eli Kore Me Seir, that Hashem is calling out from Seir. My God. הרי שהקדוש ברוך הוא מסתיר בתוך המקומות הנמוכים v'ashferim shel galut esav. That is, in the exile outside the land of Israel, Hashem hides himself in the deepest and darkest places. Hanikra Seir, which is called Seir, umehem ba'im hameniot hanistarot, and that's where the hidden obstacles are coming from. Ukshe, meaning, the meaning of what the sentence that we just read is that here we just had Yom Kippur, everyone's dressed in white, standing in shul, fasting, davening all day. You ask somebody, where is Hashem? You say, what are you talking about? Hashem's right here. Look at how holy we all are. We even said, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto out loud, like the angels. But what if you go to Times Square and somebody says to you, where is God? Here. And he's saying, exactly, that's where God is. In the places that you don't see where God is, that's where God is. That's why he brought this text proof. When you're in a disco or whatever, a nightclub, you're in some place that just seems like, wow, there's no godliness here at all. Hashem is there as well. I knew it was coming. Yeah, Elle says she feels Hashem in Times Square. I don't know if Times Square is the same anymore after COVID. Apparently, we had some guests. Was it guests on Shabbos that were from New York? Yeah. They said it never returned to what it used to be. Okay. Ukshe yishbo et ameniyot shesham, when a person breaks the obstacles there, az yimtzad Hashem yitbarach. Then you'll find Hashem, kind of like the Kinder egg. Break it open and you find the prize inside. Umi she'eino ba'dad, but a person that doesn't think that Hashem could be in the obstacles, ve'eino yodea u'mevin she'Hashem yitbarach, and doesn't understand or see that Hashem nimtza u'mastir b'toch hameniyah, is found and hidden within the obstacles. When a person sees that obstacle, jumps back, and the person thinks Hashem doesn't want my service. Why would Hashem want me? I'm a nothing. I'm a bad person. And distance himself. V'nofel me'akol, and falls from everything, is knocked down by everything. Meaning that every obstacle that hits the person, they don't have, it's kind of like a tree in the sand. Doesn't have any place to get the roots in deep. The person that has faith in Hashem knows that Hashem is hidden with all the obstacles. They have very deep roots, and so when the obstacle comes and hits the tree doesn't fall over. But a person that doesn't have that, so everything, I think it's a terrible place to be. To think that if a person lives with the belief that there's no God and no meaning, and we're all just randomly here, and the reason we don't kill one another is because of a social contract, that if I kill you, you'll kill me, so I won't kill you, so you won't kill me, and I won't steal from you, so you won't steal from me, and that's how we all get along. It's like all the things that happen to you, well, who do you turn to? What meaning does it have behind it? Nothing. There's no God, there's no nothing. That's the person he's describing here. So he says they fall from everything. But a person that has faith in Hashem understands the opposite. That Hashem is found within the obstacles. And this obstacle is mist and fog. That they cover up the light. It's clouds and fog, that is darkness, even in the middle of the day, when the clouds cover the sky, or there's a big fog, we have darkness. The essence, the purpose of the clouds and the mist, Hu lachshich, is to bring darkness. Choshech hu romez alashon meni'ah. So we have the phrase from the darkness in Egypt, when the darkness was palpable. It was a blackness that prevented the Egyptians from moving. But here he's bringing a different text proof to say that the word choshech is connected to obstacle, k'moshe katuv, as is written in Bereshit. V'lo chasachta, we say this every morning, lo chasachta et bincha tichitcha mimeni. You didn't hold back your only son from me. This is from the Akedah, from the binding of Isaac. sheperusho lo manata. What is the meaning of lo chasachta? That you didn't hold back. Manata, you didn't prevent. And he's saying that's where we get the proof that this is from the darkness, and the cloud is the obstacle. Meaning that we have the cloud. We have the mountain surrounded by the cloud. The people standing at the bottom. Moshe going up the mountain into the cloud. Basically what he's saying is you can stand at the bottom of the mountain, or you can go up the mountain into the darkness, into the obstacle, because that's where Hashem is found. Meaning that when you overcome your obstacles, that's when you find Hashem. So one of the nice things about Yom Kippur, when it's over, it's a sense of accomplishment. We made it through a day of fasting, a day of davening, a day of intense spiritual energy, intense judgment, and for me, at least, is a huge sense of relief. I think from the 17th of Tammuz until Yom Kippur is over, I'm feeling this heaviness, and then it's taken off. So whenever we face these obstacles, Hashem is hidden within them. We overcome them, we find Hashem there. V'zeh perush pasuk, and this is the meaning of the verse. V'yamod ha'me'achok, that the nation stood at a distance. Ki kshero'im ha'afen, when you see the fog, hainu ha'meniya kanan, that is the obstacle, as mentioned above, omdim me'achok, you stand at a distance. Kistam ha'am, because it's a regular nation, hainu ha'anashim she'einam ba'redat, those that don't have an acknowledgement of Hashem running the world, ksheim ro'im meniya, when they see a cloud or a fog, they stand at a distance, and they step back. But Moshe is the aspect of the whole Jewish people knowing that Hashem, right? Because we know everything about Judaism basically through Moshe, that was the conduit for bringing down the Torah from Hashem. And since Moshe had real da'at, he understands, it's within the obstacle that's where Hashem is found. That's what Moshe understood, and Moshe had the greatest awareness of Hashem of anyone. Lekach Moshe habao da'at nigash el arafem asher Hashem Elokim. That's why Moshe, not only did he have no fear of going up the mountain into the fog, he knew that he was going to find Hashem there, and so he enthusiastically went up the mountain into the fog, meaning that he enthusiastically faced his obstacles. Hainu el hameniyah, that is into the obstacle, ba'atzma lishpo'ota. He went into the obstacle in order to break it. Ki yodea sheba ba'atzma nistar Hashem yitbarach, because he knew that that's where Hashem would be found. Now he's going to explain, and this is the second and last part, it's a short lesson. He's going to explain, why does Hashem, as it were, have to put the obstacles in the way in order to bring people closer to Him? Why does Hashem have to give us obstacles in order to bring us closer? Mosif Rebbe Nachman Zal, Rebbe Nachman of Lesson Memory adds, Od Shamanu B'zeh Mipiv HaKadosh Rabbeinu Zal, we heard from his holy mouth, from Rebbe Nachman, Shosif Leve'er Ha'inyan Hanal, that added something to the matter above, Ma Hashem Yitbarach Ba'atzmo Mastir Et Atzmo B'toch HaMeniyah Kanal, that, in fact, this idea that Hashem hides himself within the obstacles, as mentioned above. He said, Hashem loves justice. וגם הוא אוהב ישראל, and he also loves the Jewish people. אך אהבתו שהוא אוהב את ישראל היא גדולה יותר מהאהבה שהוא אוהב את המשפט. But Hashem's love for the Jewish people is greater than his love for justice. ועל כן, כשמידת הדין מקטרג על מי שאינו ראוי להתקרב להשם יתברך, so when the attribute of justice says to Hashem, comes and brings a complaint to Hashem, saying that this person is not fitting to come close to Hashem, מבלי להניחו, לכנוס לדרך החיים להתקרב לצדיק האמת ולדרך האמת, in order to prevent, not allow the person to go on the path of life, to come close to the true tzaddik, and on the path of truth. Hashem yitbarach hu ohev mishpat, because Hashem loves justice. Al ken hu yitbarach muchach kivyochol. But then Hashem is forced, as it were, להסכים להזמין לו מניעות למנעו מדרך החיים, to put obstacles in the way of a person in order to prevent them from living an easy, good life. כפי הראוי לו לפי מעשיו הרעים. Every person according to their bad actions, their evil actions, meaning anything that goes against the will of Hashem, that's what causes the obstacles that we have. Al pi hadin v'hamishpat, according to justice and judgment up above. Ki hu yitbarach eino yachol lidchot et hadin. Hashem cannot push off the judgment or justice. Ki hu yitbarach ohev mishpat kanal, because Hashem loves the truth and loves justice. Hashem wants there to be justice in the world. Now, we don't always get to see justice in this world. There is ultimately justice. Sometimes we get to see it. You know, I personally believe that us living here in the land of Israel, even the state of Israel with all of its flaws, is Hashem giving the Jewish people some type of final justice. I hope that we'll continue to live here until Mashiach comes. But it's a historical anomaly, anomaly, that any nation would survive 2,000 years of exile and actually come back and reestablish their country and their language, and it's successful. It's unheard of. Just to see anything in Hebrew is incredible. To hear conversations in Hebrew. That there are kids that only think in Hebrew. It's unheard of. It's a miracle. And in a sense, all of the suffering that the Jews went through, Hashem had compassion on us and brought us here. Ach me'achar shebe'emet hu yitbarach od Yisrael, but because Hashem loves the Jewish people, ota ahava shel Yisrael hi gedola yoter me'ahava shel mishpat, and Hashem's love for the Jewish people is greater than His love for justice. Kanal is mentioned above. Ma oseh Hashem yitbarach, what does Hashem do? כי אף שהוא מוכרח כביכול להסכים על המניעות למנעו מהאמת, even though Hashem has to agree to put problems in your life and obstacles in your way, מחימת הדין והמשפט שעליו, because there is justice in the world, כי הוא אוהב משפט, because Hashem loves justice, כנ"ל זה mentioned above, אבל אף על פי כן, nonetheless, באמת לאמיתו רוצה לחפשו יתברך, Hashem's desire and want is really שאף על פי כן יתקרב האדם אליו יתברך. Hashem wants us to come closer, but Hashem has to put obstacles. We have to want to come closer to Hashem. כי הוא אוהב ישראל, because he loves the Jewish people, יותר מהמשפט, more than justice. כנ"ל is mentioned above. על כן, אף שמצד אחד השם יתברך נותן רשות למידת הדין להזמין ומניעות, even though Hashem allows, however, the system of how the world works to put obstacles in the way of people, אבל הוא יתברך מעצמו מסתיר את עצמו כביכול בתוך המניעות. But Hashem hides himself, as it were, within the obstacles. כמלך המקיף את עצמו בחומות של אחיזת עיניים. Like a king that surrounds himself with walls that are really an obstacle illusion. So in Rebbe Nachman's time, I don't think there was anything that was such an obstacle illusion that we could see them as walls. But now you go to the old city, and on the old city walls, they have this amazing laser show, and it looks like rocks are falling and people are coming out. But we know that none of that is real, but it looks real. So he's saying, this is like a king that surrounds himself with walls that are not real. שבאמת אינם חומות אלא רק נראות כחומות. The walls are not real, they just look like real walls. כמשל גדול שאי אפשר לעוברו. So this is a lesson that we learned in the Likutey Moharan, that the king builds his walls that are really obstacle illusions, the enemies come, they see the walls, they say we can't get through them. The prince knows that they're obstacle illusions, and he simply walks through them all. This is the analogy. Now, you have to be on a very high level to be able to walk through all of your obstacles. Don't try to walk through a wall. Technically, we should be able to walk through a wall. I should be able to put my hand through. I don't understand physics, how it works, but, when you get down to the size of the atoms, there's space between them. And you would think, so what's preventing my hand from going through the paper? What's keeping anything together? I think scientists have a hard time explaining it. They can call it some name. Well, that's the force of. Well, what's causing that force? Well, the neutrons and the protons or whatever. Yeah, but what's causing that? Well, we haven't figured that out yet. But Mishu Ba'dad, but somebody who knows that it's Hashem. Or Mishu Ba'dad, and somebody who is Ba'dad, יכול למצוא את השם יתברך דווקא בתוך המניעות בעצמם. You can find Hashem within the obstacles. כשהרי Hashem מסתיר את עצמו, Hashem hides himself within the obstacles, והכוונה, and the intention is, שמשיג אור גדול והשגה רוחנית גדולה. That when you go and face your obstacles and you take them on with a type of trust in Hashem, you can find a great deal of light and spiritual energy there. כי באמת אין שום מניעה בעולם כלל, because the truth is, there are no obstacles in the world at all. פירוש, meaning, אין שום מניעה שבא באמת בשביל למנוע מעבודת השם. There's no obstacle that's actually really coming to stop you from serving Hashem. אלא להפך, but rather the opposite. כל המניעות כולן באות, all of the obstacles come, או בשביל להשתיק את מידת הדין, or to quiet the attribute of judgment, meaning that up in heaven they're saying, hey, this guy doesn't deserve to build his sukkah right away. He has to have some obstacles there. And when Hashem puts the obstacle there, then midat hadin says, okay, fine. We see Barak is suffering. Now we're not arguing anymore. או בשביל לבחון את האדם, מהו באמת רצונו, or to test the person, to find out if what the person really wants. Like, you might say, I really want a piece of pizza, but in order to get to the pizza, I have to go out in the rain, and I don't want to be bothered. So never mind, I'll just eat some crackers that are in my office. So Hashem puts obstacles in the way to say, well, if you really want that pizza, you'll put on your winter boots, and you'll get your umbrella, and you'll walk there, and you'll get your pizza. Now, this is for, of course, coming close to Hashem and doing mitzvot. So it says, the person wants to keep Shabbos, and they're struggling to keep Shabbos. Hashem is putting tests in the way all the time to determine, do you really want to keep Shabbos or not? And then he says, O bishvil lahagbir et cheshko, in order to strengthen your desire to do it. So you might come across an obstacle again and again. For example, lashon hara. It's lots of fun to speak lashon hara, to say slander or bad things about another person, and you decide you don't want to hear lashon hara. And here, you have this friend comes all the time and says, oh, let me tell you what's going on with this person, what's going on with this person. And you say, no, I decided I'm not going to hear it. I don't want to talk about those things. And that, what you would say, well, Hashem, I already decided I don't want to hear lashon hara. Why are you sending this friend back to me in order to strengthen your decision to do that mitzvah? And so, it comes out that the obstacles are really just an obstacle illusion. It appears that there are big obstacles, but the truth is the obstacles are really the obstacles in your head. That prevents a person because of their doubts. But the truth is, שגם מה שנראה כמניעה גדולה, שלא יוכל לעשות את המצווה, או ללמוד תורה, או לנסוע לצדיק, that what seems like a great obstacle that prevents a person from doing a mitzvah, or learning Torah, or traveling to the tzaddik, and which is why I travel to the tzaddik, because I read this again and again and again. And so I got on a plane and went to Rebbe Nachman. Be'emet ein ze meniat klal. The truth is, it's not an obstacle. The only obstacle is the obstacle in our brain, in our mind. Ki betokef ameniot ba'atzman nistar Hashem yitbarach. In the power of the obstacle itself, Hashem can be found. Ve'al yedei ameniot ba'atzman daika yicholim litkarev l'Hashem yitbarach. And specifically through the obstacles, that we come close to Hashem, right? Because anything that we want to achieve, there always is going to be a challenge, whatever area in life, and so too also with our relationship with Hashem. Kisham nistar hu yitbarach kanan, because that's where Hashem is hidden. Nimtza shelo hayata zo meniah be'emet, and then we discovered that it wasn't really an obstacle. Ela hi ba'a kedei lechaven oto nimtzo echan nimtza Hashem yitbarach, but rather the obstacle came to help a person have direction and to find Hashem within the obstacle. Dahainu, that is to say, shiada be'ezo derech ba'avodat Hashem, in which path of serving Hashem, u'tzarech lelechet, the person has to go on. Ki davka b'derech shenir'et b'makom sheyesh bo achi harbe meniot, specifically the path that there's the most obstacles on, hi derech shehu tzarech livchor ba. This is the path that you have to choose. So there's this, I don't know where it comes from, there's a saying that the mitzvah that's hardest for you is the mitzvah that is probably your mitzvah. So, whatever it is, like I can tell you my personal stuff, I'm a very friendly person when I know people, but I don't want to go out of my way and introduce myself to like new people. So if somebody sits next to me in shul, I usually ignore them. And that's not a good thing. We say before davening, "Hareini mikabel alai mitzvah shel she'ahavta lecha kmocha." Accept upon myself the positive mitzvah of loving your fellow as yourself. So as a result, I force myself to turn to the person next to me and say, "Shalom, ma shimcha, who are you? What's your name? Where are you from?" And I always say hi to people, and that's because it's a hard thing for me. Achnasat ochim, now we have guests for many, many years, but in the beginning, it wasn't a natural thing for me. Something that I had to work on. I had to work on the cooking and spending all the money and all the time and sometimes crazy guests. So whatever it is, we're saying whenever you see the most obstacles, that's where Hashem is hidden for you. And this is the meaning of Moshe went into the fog. Shehu HaMeniah, which is the obstacle, Kisham HaElokim Kanan, because that's where Hashem was hidden, as mentioned above. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so I'm going to tell you a short story for Purim, not for Purim, for Sukkot. I was really thinking about Purim on the Yom Kippur. I was thinking, wow, for the Suda, I'm going to get a bottle of vodka for my friend from this place. It's really fun. I just kept thinking about Purim. So you know the story. It's a famous story that Reb Shalom used to tell. I don't know where he heard it. There was a Karliner Chassid, and Karlin, have you ever davened in Karlin in Mea Shearim? I went once. There's apparently two groups of Karlin. One shouts louder than the other. The way they daven is the Chazan says, Lechol Elanana! And then everyone starts shouting the davening really as loud as they can. And then it dies down and he says, Shul Hashem Shir Chadash! And they start shouting. That's the whole davening. So there was a Karliner Chassid, lived across the street from this wealthy Jew. Came Sukkot time, and the Karliner Chassid would go around and collect little pieces of wood from everyone. When you're building your sukkah, you have some extra pieces of wood. Here you can see them all around the neighborhood, all over the place. You collect them and build the sukkah. He'd make a lot of noise, he'd play music and laugh, and his family had big meals. And the wealthy guy across the road, he didn't like all this. And normally he's in his house. Now he's in the sukkah. And so he decides this year he's going to stop that Karliner Chassid from making so much noise. He owned the big factory in town and everybody worked for him. And he said, anyone that gives a scrap of wood to the Karliner Chassid is going to get fired. Don't bother to come back after Chol HaMoed. So the Karliner, it's like, the day before the holiday, before Sukkot, he's going around collecting wood, and nobody wants to give him wood. They won't even give him like a nail. And eventually somebody says, we were threatened by the owner of the factory, if we give you anything, he's going to fire us. So he's really kind of depressed, he doesn't know what to do, and then he has this genius idea. He's walking down the street, that's what it is. And he sees the angel of death. And he says to the angel of death, Shalom Aleichem, Malach HaMavet. What are you doing here in our neighborhood? He's like, I have one more pickup before Yom Tov. I said, really? Who's going to die in our town here? I said, the wealthy Jew that owns the factory? It's his day. It's time for him to die. So the Karliner says, listen, angel of death, I'm going to save you some time. He's already dead. He's not really living. He's the most depressed person I know. Don't bother with him. Come back after the holiday. Take care of him later. It's like, thank you for saving me so much time. He said, you know what? Since I'm not going to be in your town until after Sukkot, you can go to the cemetery and use the little posts that they stick in the ground when somebody dies. It says, Po Nitman. Here is buried. So he says, thank you very much. He goes to the cemetery and there's all these stacks of wood for using after burials, and he built a sukkah from it. And here comes the first night of Sukkot, and the family is in their sukkah, and they're making all this noise, and the wealthy Jew gets so angry, comes walking across the road, says, what are you doing? Who gave you this wood? I'm going to fire that person. I said, no one's allowed to give you wood. He said, well, it was actually the angel of death. He said, look around, you'll see all the pieces of wood say, Pei Nun, Po Nitman. Looks around, he says, what do you mean the angel of death? He said, well, you kept me from getting wood from anyone. I'm walking around, don't know what to do. I see the angel of death. I say, well, what are you here for? He said, he's coming to pick you up. He says, me? I said, yeah, I told him, don't bother, you're already dead. I mean, what kind of life do you live? You're so depressed and angry all the time. He said, he came for me? He said, yeah. And he said, so what did you tell him? I said, come back after the Yom Tov, after the holidays are over. So this guy was really shocked. And he realized that he was living an empty life. He had all this material stuff, but he wasn't being a Jew. And he comes and hangs out with the Karliner and his family. And when the holiday's over, he's trembling because he thinks the angel of death is going to come for him. And he says to the Karliner, maybe if you see him, you'll tell him that I've changed. You tell him that I celebrated the Chag with you, and I'm not angry anymore, and that he shouldn't kill me. And apparently the angel of death didn't come, and the wealthy Jew came back to the Karliner. He said, I'm still sad, and I need help. And the Karliner said, I can't help you anymore. You're going to have to come to my Rebbe. He goes to the Karliner Rebbe, and the Karliner helps him to work on his sadness, to bring out his joy, until eventually he became a Karliner Chassid himself, and one of the big supporters. And it was all thanks to this simple Chassid who didn't give up, who remained optimistic, and not only had his sukkah, but helped his friend across the street. And so, I don't know how many people run into the angel of death, but the point is to be happy. And you don't need things to be happy. Happiness comes from within. Whatever you have, that's enough. And when we're sitting in our sukkah, B'ezrat Hashem, just find the joy in the sukkah, find the joy in your friends, in what you have, and just the fact that you're a Jew, enough to be happy. B'ezrat Hashem. So we'll continue again 2 weeks from now, on Tuesday night, and give me some time to figure out what we're going to learn next.